The story begins with a man, severely injured, sitting on the ground, staring at his friend, Luo Wei. With a voice filled with pain and disbelief, he asks, "Weren't we brothers who fought through life and death together? Then why would you do this to me?" Luo Wei remains calm, his expression unreadable. "Do you remember when the calamity first began?" he says coldly. "When monsters emerged from strange spatial rifts, tearing the world apart. Those rifts were later called dungeons, and those who came into contact with them gained mysterious powers, which became known as classes. That was why we formed the class unit, to conquer the dungeons and push forward in glorious victory." His eyes narrow. "But that is exactly why I must eliminate you. You have become uncontrollable. Powerful class users like you can disrupt the Empire's order. And you, having surpassed even the SSS rank, are the most dangerous of all. The strongest power must remain in the hands of the royal family. Only then can the Empire remain stable." Enraged, the injured man shouts back, "So that's your excuse? Is that why you destroyed my family?" Without hesitation, Luo Wei delivers a swift strike, felling the protagonist completely. As he steps forward, he reveals the truth. "I tampered with your armor long ago. The explosion earlier also injected a compound poison into your wounds. After an SSS rank battle, you shouldn't have any strength left to resist. I've even prepared an entire army to ensure this ends here. Consider this my final show of respect for you." The protagonist's vision blurs, his mind drifting into a memory, one of him and Luo Wei laughing together on their many adventures. In that moment, a glowing window appears before his eyes. Hidden skill. Mirror World has met activation conditions. Mirror World is an SSS rank hidden ability, an ultimate skill capable of reversing everything. The scene shifts to decades later. A group of boys are bullying someone named Yun Che near a pond. One of them punches him hard, then dunks his head underwater. Gasping for breath, Yun Che mutters in frustration, "Why does it always have to be me?" Somewhere in the depths of his mind, the faint voice of the protagonist stirs, wondering, what is that sound? A boy named Xiao Ji rushes over, yelling, "Stop it already. You'll kill him." The bully sneers. "If he's going to die, then let him heal himself. After all, isn't Yun Che a chanter?" He then turned toward Xiao Ji. "You're such a hypocrite. You're the one who led us to him in the first place. If he dies, it's your fault." Xiao Ji stammers that he only did it because they threatened him, but the bully, now angrier, steps forward as if to punch him too. Before the blow lands, a strange light bursts from the pond. The bullies freeze, their faces pale. "No way. Is that a new dungeon?" one whispers. Panic erupts, and they scatter in every direction. Xiao Ji, however, doesn't run. He's worried about Yun Che, who is still bound and submerged. Without thinking, he dives toward him, trying to untie the ropes. But before he can free him, grotesque goblins emerge from the newly formed dungeon, surrounding the area. A goblin raises its weapon to strike, only for Yun Che to suddenly rise from the water, pulling Xiao Ji to safety. Yun Che casts Glacial Impact, but to Xiao Ji's horror, the spell heals the goblin instead of harming it. "What are you doing?" Xiao Ji shouts. "Why would you heal the enemy?" The goblin lunges again, and Xiao Ji quickly summons a shield spell, blocking the attack. A glowing system window appears in front of Yun Che, showing his stats. He realizes with a shock, this is not his original body. He is inside the body of someone named Yun Che, and the magic he just used was healing magic. Normally, when someone comes into contact with a dungeon, they bind with the system and are granted a random starting class that cannot be changed. From there, they grow stronger by clearing dungeons, gaining abilities tied to that class. But the protagonist, once a warrior who had reached the absolute pinnacle, was different. Back then, he had used the Mirror World skill, a power that reverses everything. That choice had trapped him within the mirrored realm for decades, until he heard Yun Che's cries. That meant he had been revived inside Yun Che's body. It was not exactly a pleasant revelation, but it was still a second chance. And for that, he silently thanked Yun Che for unknowingly giving him the opportunity to exact his revenge. Meanwhile, Xiao Ji calls out urgently, "Yun Che, the monsters are swarming us. I can handle 3 at most. You need to do something." On the other hand, Yun Che thinks to himself, "This body is far too weak. Even these low-level monsters are beyond me. At that moment, a glowing system window appears, displaying a list of the skills available to him. The protagonist scans through them and quickly realizes that most are utterly useless. A chanter? He thinks with a frown. The class is far too niche. Its strengths lie entirely in support roles, and even there, it's outclassed by other classes. No wonder it's always been looked down upon. With the protagonist's old combat instincts still intact, Yun-Che manages to hold out for a short while, but he knows he needs a solution fast. If he runs out of mana, it will be over. That's when he decides to attempt using Mirror World, the hidden skill, his only real hope. Dodging a monster's strike, Yun-Che steps forward, thinking, how exactly does this skill work? He tries activating it directly on the monster, but a notification flashes. Activation failed. Conditions not met. What conditions? He mutters internally. Is my level too low? Or does it require an actual mirror? He tries again, this time targeting the monster's reflection in a pool of water. Another notification appears. Skill failed due to insufficient level. Realization strikes him. Mirror World requires a reflective surface to activate. That explains part of it, but the level restriction is still a problem. Perhaps he can try a different target. He focuses on the monster's sword, but once again, insufficient level. Meanwhile, Xiaoji shouts, stop wasting time with your useless skills. I can't hold out much longer. Before Yun-Che can respond, a towering figure emerges from the dungeon. A level 10 overlord, Wraith Demon, with HP 1,680 and MP 100. Xiaoji's face pales. We're doomed. An elite like that requires at least level 10 to defeat. Suddenly, an army of demons pours out behind it, surrounding them. Xiaoji is in shock, but Yun-Che, desperate, tries Mirror World on a small pebble. Still insufficient level. The army charges straight at him. Yun-Che grits his teeth. Not even a rock. Is the level gap really that huge? In a last attempt, he targets Xiaoji's makeshift barrier with the skill. This time, the window reads, cannot reverse other players' skills. Then, an idea clicks. If I can't reverse someone else's skill, can I reverse my own? He quickly activates one of his own abilities, Entangling Vines. The system reacts immediately. Skill reversed, Chaotic Thorns unlocked. The transformation is instantaneous. Vines erupt from the ground. In a single strike, every surrounding monster is taken down, except the boss. The Overlord roars and lunges for Yun-Che, but before it can land a blow, another monstrous figure appears and smashes its fist into the boss, killing it instantly. Xiaoji stares, stunned. What just happened? Meanwhile, Yun-Che studies the system notifications. The reversal has completely altered the skill's effect. Instead of immobilizing enemies, it now inflicts confusion. Original skill, Entangling Vines, cost 10 MP. Vines entangle a single enemy, low chance to immobilize. Reversed enhancement, Chaotic Thorns, cost 10 MP. Thorns lash a target, low chance to inflict confusion. Confusion causes afflicted units to attack random targets. A status window appears, confirming confusion-afflicted units will attack random targets. A slow smile spreads across Yun-Che's face. A useless skill, turned powerful after reversal. His mind races. If this works on one ability, what will happen when I reverse the rest of my skills? Yun-Che muttered to himself. Mirror World truly lives up to its reputation as an SSS-Rank hidden skill. It didn't simply reverse skill effects. There was clearly an overall enhancement as well. If he had used the original, unreversed version of Entangling Vines, not only would the success rate have been low, but the restraint duration would have lasted barely a single second, never reaching the potency it now displayed. As he pondered this, another system window appeared, listing his available skills. One caught his attention, Empowered Strike, cost 20 MP, duration 30 seconds. Curious, Yun-Che activated Mirror World on it. A new, reversed skill formed instantly. Trick Blade, cost 40 MP, duration 60 seconds. A smirk spread across his face as he unsheathed his sword. Trick Blade. He quickly realized that with each skill usage, his attack power would increase by 10%. Just by activating any ability, he could trigger the effect. Its potential was extraordinary. Another notification flashed, level up. Yun-Che glanced around and realized that many monsters had been slain in the chaos of infighting, their deaths granting him a significant amount of experience. One of the surviving monsters lunged at him. He raised his weapon, blocking the strike with ease. Perfect timing, he thought, his smile widening. Leveling up had fully restored his MP. It was time to put Trick Blade to the test. He activated Chaotic Thorns, while also taking advantage of Trick Blade's attack boost. The result was devastating. Dozens of monsters fell in a single strike. By the time the dust settled, Trick Blade had already doubled his attack power. This skill, it breaks all conventions, Yun-Che thought, eyes gleaming. One of the boss monsters roared and charged at him. Yun-Che parried the incoming strike, spun behind the beast in an instant, and take it down with a single decisive blow. Xiao Ji, watching from a distance, stood frozen in shock. Is this really Yun-Che? A level 5 chanter doing that? It was almost impossible to believe that someone with such a supposedly weak class possessed this kind of strength. Meanwhile, Yun-Che calculated quickly. At his current level 6 stats, with 120 MP and 1 MP regeneration per second, he could theoretically reach 2.3x attack power through Trick Blade. With that, his strength might just be enough to handle even level 11 elite bosses, though only barely. The ground suddenly shook beneath his feet. From the shadows, another monster appeared, its sheer presence radiating danger. Chimera, level 21. As the low-level monsters tried to rush forward, the Chimera moved, taking those monsters down effortlessly with a single strike. Xiao Ji's face turned pale. A hidden boss? At this level? Before Yun-Che could answer, the Chimera lunged at him. He immediately cast Chaotic Thorns to halt its movement, but the skill failed to restrain the beast. Its massive strike hurtled toward him. At the last moment, Xiao Ji dashed in front of him, activating his barrier skill to intercept the blow. The impact was explosive, forcing Yun-Che to recall memories of his past life, of the comrade who had always shielded him in battle, taking the brunt of danger whenever Yun-Che charged headfirst into the fray. The memory vanished in an instant as reality returned. Xiao Ji's barrier shattered, and his body was sent flying into a nearby wall. Shocked by the sight of Xiao Ji being slammed into the wall, Yun-Che rushed to his side without hesitation. Kneeling down, he immediately cast his healing skill in an attempt to mend Xiao Ji's injuries. However, the faint glow of the spell quickly faded, and Yun-Che realized with frustration that it had no effect. Worse yet, the effort had drained the last of his remaining MP. TCH. Chanter healing skills really are pathetic, he thought bitterly. Looking at Xiao Ji's pale face, Yun-Che asked urgently, "Do you have any health potions?" Xiao Ji coughed and replied, "Only one emergency bottle left." "Drink it," Yun-Che ordered firmly. As Xiao Ji fumbled for the potion, a new system window appeared before Yun-Che's eyes. Only 10 seconds remaining on Trick Blade. Quickly assessing the battlefield, Yun-Che noted that most of the remaining monsters were around levels 10 or 11, but the towering Chimera boss stood at level 21. There was no question, he was still no match for the boss in his current state. However, the weaker monsters were already on the verge of death. A plan began to form in his mind, one that might just work. Turning to Xiao Ji, he said, "Hold on for just 1 minute. I'll deal with these monsters." Xiao Ji's eyes widened in disbelief. Alone? Before he could protest further, Yun-Che was already moving. In a flash, he dashed across the battlefield, taking down the low-level monsters with precise, decisive strikes. One after another, they fell before they could even react. A system window popped up, displaying his skill cooldowns and remaining MP. Yun-Che quickly calculated. He would need at least 400% attack power to have a chance against the Chimera, but Trick Blade only lasted 60 seconds. Then, another notification appeared, "Level up." Yun-Che's eyes lit up. "If I cast Chaotic Thorns 40 times within the next 50 seconds, I can stack my attack power high enough. But to do that, I'll need to reach level 10 first." From the sidelines, Xiao Ji could only watch in stunned silence. He's facing them all alone. Then, the Chimera roared and charged toward Yun-Che. At that moment, a bright glow enveloped him, level 12 achieved. His MP bar instantly refilled, and his Trick Blade effect now allowed for 510% attack power for the remaining 9 seconds. More than enough, Yun-che thought with a confident smirk. He tightened his grip on his sword, and in a single explosive dash, closed the distance to the chimera. He took down the monster with one clean strike. The boss let out a final, ear-splitting roar before collapsing. Xiao Ji's jaw dropped. You just solo cleared an entire dungeon. The moment the chimera fell, another notification appeared, level up ×3. Yun-che was now level 15, his stats and abilities significantly enhanced compared to before. A final window followed. Dungeon Lord defeated. Dungeon cleared. Xiao Ji approached him slowly, still trying to process what had just happened. Is this really you, Yun-che? How did you suddenly become so strong? Yun-che looked at him for a long moment, memories of his past life flashing before his eyes. Memories of a comrade who had stood by him until the end. Then, without answering the question directly, he asked, "What's your relationship with Xiao Bian?" Xiao Ji froze, his expression shifting to shock. How do you know my great-grandfather's nickname?" Surprised, Yun-che could hardly believe what he had just heard. Xiao Ji was actually the great-grandson of Xiao Bian. For a moment, he stood there in disbelief, his thoughts swirling. Weren't all the people I knew in my past life taken down by Luo Wei? As he tried to ask more about it, Xiao Ji, "There's no need to talk about my great-grandfather right now," he said evenly. "If you don't want to answer my question, you don't have to. I'm not here to humiliate you." Yun-che was caught off guard by the remark. Before he could respond, Xiao Ji continued, "Although I don't know why, I'm certain you've been hiding your true strength all this time, haven't you? Either way, we should head back to school. Tomorrow, the Academy is organizing a visit to the Modern History Memorial Hall." Yun-che kept his expression neutral, though his mind was alert. "I can't reveal my identity just yet. If Xiao Ji starts digging too deeply, he might grow suspicious." Out loud, he simply said, "All right, let's go." Still, inwardly, his thoughts shifted. The Modern History Memorial Hall, there will definitely be records of what happened after I died in my previous life. The scene transitioned to the following day. On the bus ride, Yun-che and Xiao Ji sat quietly side by side. Yun-che's gaze wandered out the window as he silently reflected. How times have changed. After being dead for so many years, the world is nothing like I remember. People are using products from dungeons to power carriages. New tools, new weapons, and strange devices I've never seen before. Although some of them resemble artifacts I once encountered inside dungeons. A thought crossed his mind. Wait, wasn't it supposed to be that only items dropped by monsters could be brought out of a dungeon? Opening his status window, he tapped on an entry. A flash of light appeared on his finger. A ring materialized. Chimera Ring, Epic Rank, level 14. So equipment like this, as well as skill books, can be taken out through the inventory, and they can even be bought and sold outside dungeons now. Another notification appeared. Skill acquired. Resilient physique, passive, permanently reduces physical damage taken. Yun-che's mind returned to the old rules he knew. Items that couldn't be stored in the inventory were supposed to vanish when the dungeon lord was defeated, disappearing along with the dungeon itself. So what on earth happened after my death for these rules to change? The scene shifted again, this time to the academy grounds. Yun-che's eyes were drawn to a towering statue in the courtyard. "That's the supreme ruler of our kingdom," Xiao Ji explained. "The emperor who ended the dungeon disasters, Luo Wei." Their teacher gathered the students and addressed them. Most of you may already know this, but over 50 years ago, this very place was the battlefield of the famous rebellion. Back then, humanity was deeply afflicted by the dungeon outbreaks, especially after the most terrifying SSS-Rank dungeon appeared. People lived in constant fear. Our king at the time, Luo Wei, personally led the royal army on an expedition to clear it. Despite suffering heavy casualties, he finally conquered that dungeon. The teacher's tone grew heavier. But at that very moment, Luo Wei faced a long-planned rebellion. The mastermind, as you all know, was none other than Yun-che, the man deeply trusted by the king, yet who ultimately became an ungrateful traitor. Hearing this, Yun-che's jaw clenched. So, this is what the story has become. Back then, my comrades and I were the ones who cleared that SSS-Rank dungeon. They were the ones who were ambushed, and now history calls me the traitor. The teacher went on. You cannot imagine the grief of being betrayed under such circumstances. Yet our king, Luo Wei, overcame that sorrow and fought with unshakable courage. With the help of the hero Ding Kuan, he successfully suppressed the rebellion. Hearing the teacher's words, Yun-che couldn't help but wonder, was there really such a person named Ding Kuan? The name didn't ring any bells from his memories of the past. Before he could dwell on it further, a familiar, unwelcome voice echoed across the courtyard. Su, along with the same group of subordinates who had bullied Xiao Ji and Yun-che before, swaggered into view. Well, Su drawled, his eyes narrowing. How did the two of you manage to survive? I heard you were both swept into that newly formed dungeon. One of his cronies chimed in mockingly. I also heard that the dungeon's already been cleared. That means there must have been a master-level expert nearby. A new dungeon doesn't get cleared that quickly otherwise. Yun-che's gaze turned cold as he looked over the group who had once humiliated him and Xiao Ji. Around them, murmurs spread through the crowd as most of the students' attention shifted toward the pair. Whispers filled the air, astonishment that they had survived the sudden dungeon eruption. Su stepped right up to Xiao Ji, a sneer on his face. You've got pretty good luck making it out alive. But let's not forget, you nearly dragged me and my friends into that dungeon that day. So, how do you plan to settle this debt? Xiao Ji's fists clenched. It was your fault, Su. You're the one who almost got both of us killed in there. Anger flared in Su's eyes. Stop spouting nonsense. You clearly have no idea about the bigger picture here. He jabbed a finger toward the large statue dominating the courtyard, a depiction of the hero Luo Wei. At the statue's base was a carved relief showing Xiao Ji's ancestors bowing before Luo Wei. That traitor Xiao, Su said, is your ancestor. And I won't stand here and let the descendant of a traitor insult me. His voice rose, loud enough for the entire courtyard to hear. You can insult me all you want, Xiao Ji, but I will never allow you to insult my ancestors. The crowd's attention sharpened, students whispering excitedly as they began connecting the names. They recognized Su immediately. He was the grandson of the revered hero's bloodline. And Xiao Ji, the descendant of the so-called traitor. Whispers turned to accusations. His ancestor was responsible for taking down so many people. If the hero hadn't stepped in back then, who knows what would have happened? Su pressed on. I don't care what you say behind my back, but how dare you insult my ancestor to my face? At that moment, a teacher stepped in, his expression stern. Xiao Ji, he said gravely, I will speak a few words of justice here, and my judgment is that you should apologize to Su. Xiao Ji froze, stunned. Apologize? For what? Su took a step closer, his grin smug. You heard him. Apologize now, or should I teach you a lesson in front of everyone? No one here is going to help a traitor. My ancestors were heroes. How could I possibly be in the wrong? The tension in the air grew thick as Su raised his fist, ready to strike. But before the blow could land, a blur of movement cut through the space between them. Yun-che stepped forward and, with precise force, kicked Su squarely in the chest, sending him staggering back. Xiao Ji stared, wide-eyed at the sudden intervention. Yun-che's voice was low but laced with fury. Does the so-called hero's family have so much free time that they can't even discipline their own children? All around the hall, the students stared in disbelief. They recognized Yun-che instantly, but something about him felt completely different. This was not the quiet, unremarkable classmate they knew. Yun-che had just dared to strike Su, the grandson of a national hero, and openly insult the hero's family. Some students whispered to each other, remembering that Yun-che had only been level 5, the weakest in their entire class. What happened to him? They wondered. How could someone like that dare to hit Su? Su slowly rose to his feet, smirking despite the blow. Yun-che, he said mockingly, you're in big trouble now. You should be grateful. I wasn't even coming after you. And yet you dared to attack me while I wasn't paying attention. At his signal, Su's subordinates rushed forward to strike Yun-che. But in the blink of an eye, Yun-che moved. His strikes were precise, brutal, and impossibly fast. In mere moments, every one of Su's men, and Su himself, were on the ground. The courtyard fell silent. The students were stunned. Su, the one they considered untouchable, had been defeated again, this time almost casually. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Did Su get weaker? One asked. How can a level 5 healer overpower him like that? Su's face twisted with rage as he scrambled to his feet. Without hesitation, he activated one of his combat skills, boosting his attack power by 25%. Flames flickered across his weapon as he summoned his fire-forged hammer. "You're dead," he snarled, dashing forward. Yun-Che met his charge head-on. His footwork was sharp, his movements confident. Before Su could swing, Yun-Che closed the distance and landed a devastating punch. Su collapsed to the ground once more. The commotion drew the attention of a nearby security officer, who rushed forward. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes widening at the sight of Su sprawled on the floor. The other students were still murmuring in disbelief. Su was beaten by a level 5 healer twice. The security guard turned to the supervising teacher. "Fighting is forbidden inside the hall. What if the students damage something? Why can't you control them?" The teacher's expression hardened as he strode toward Yun-Che. "Insulting a hero wasn't enough for you? Now you've raised your hand against the hero's descendant." He drew his weapon, stepping into an attack stance. Yun-Che's gaze sharpened. In an instant, he was in motion. Steel clashed, and with a sharp crack, the teacher's weapon broke clean in two. Gasps filled the air. "Let's not talk about who's right or wrong here," Yun-Che said coldly. "You claim to be fair, teacher, but from what I've seen, you've only listened to Su's side of the story. Are you trying to favor the hero's family?" The teacher's face darkened. "Stop talking nonsense." But his eyes flicked briefly to Yun-Che's hand and froze. There was a ring there, one he didn't recognize. What kind of equipment is that? Although he hadn't used his full strength, his strike had been completely blocked. Yun-Che smiled faintly. "Just a casual remark, teacher. I don't think you're that kind of person." The teacher stepped back slightly, schooling his expression. "I will investigate this conflict thoroughly." The students buzzed with shocked whispers. Not only had Yun-Che beaten Su, but he had also blocked the teacher's attack. Inwardly, the teacher's thoughts churned. Where did he get that equipment? Does he have a powerful backing? A notification appeared in Yun-Che's vision. "Chimera ring, damaged." He sighed inwardly. Even though it's good quality, it's still just a drop from a level 21 dungeon lord. It's far too much of a stretch to use it against a level 35 teacher. Aloud, Yun-Che said, "As punishment, teacher, you should expel both Xiao Ji and me from the hall." Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked out. "Come on, Xiao Ji." Still stunned, Xiao Ji followed him out, leaving the students to murmur among themselves. How did Yun-Che become so powerful? Inside the hall, the teacher called for one of the students to heal Su. Meanwhile, walking through the academy grounds, Yun-Che's expression darkened. So no one survived after all. He glanced at Xiao Ji. "If I ask him now, he'll answer without thinking." "Xiao Ji," Yun-Che said, "my own history isn't exactly glorious. Can you tell me the details of that so-called hero, Ding Kuan?" Xiao Ji nodded. "Back then, it said the hero discovered the great villain Yun-Che's conspiracy in advance. He laid an ambush near the SSS-Rank dungeon to provide support, and that's how he resolved the entire rebellion crisis." Yun-Che's fists clenched at the words. Xiao Ji went on. "Hero Ding Kuan aspired to solve the dungeon crisis from a young age. He trained hard all his life for it. After being promoted by the king, he fought all over the country for years, saving countless places from disaster, like the famous Great Cataclysm of Winterfell City." Hearing that name, Yun-Che remembered the bitter cold and the hordes of monsters he himself had defeated in that very battle. He asked slowly, "And the sword in the hero's statue?" "That's the flowing cloud sword," Xiao Ji replied. "It's said to be the very weapon the hero used to take down the traitor Yun-Che. It's considered a top-tier artifact." A dangerous glint entered Yun-Che's eyes. "So not only did Ding Kuan steal my glory and achievements, he even took my sword. The first person I'll kill will be Ding Kuan." The scene shifts to the gates of the Ding family compound, where several hunters stand guard. Their armor gleams under the sunlight, their postures disciplined, weapons at the ready. Suddenly, a faint disturbance catches their attention. They turn sharply, scanning the perimeter. It's only two figures. One of the guards relaxes almost immediately, muttering to the others, "Just a couple of kids." On the other hand, Yun-Che studies them with sharp eyes. They're far more alert than the average guard. Is that one of them a wanderer with the scout skill? As the two move forward, Xiao Ji leans closer and whispers, "We should leave. There are too many guards here. Even if we could sneak in, the moment Ding Su returns, we're finished." Yun-Che doesn't reply right away, his thoughts turning over in his mind. Of course, I want to confront that so-called hero Ding Kuan directly, but according to Xiao Ji, Ding Kuan spends almost all his time in a high-level dungeon. Unlike in my past life, I can't enter or leave dungeons freely anymore. The high-level ones are under strict military control, and I'd need a special pass to get in. That thought sparks another idea. If Ding Kuan's family has that pass, it might be stored here. Yun Che glances sideways at Xiao Ji. Do they really need this many guards? They're just one branch of Ding Kuan's descendants. They're descendants of a hero. Xiao Ji replies, as if that explains everything. And they have a dungeon right here on their property. Yun Che raises an eyebrow. They keep a dungeon at home? Xiao Ji nods. Low-level dungeons have been bought and sold privately for a long time now. But that's not something ordinary people can even dream of. Only those with real power and influence can afford it. Ding Su has guards with him all the time, so Ding Kuan can hunt monsters and level up whenever he wants. But for students like us, the only time we can fight monsters is during the school's dungeon practicals. And even then, we have to fight for the chance. Yin Che shakes his head slightly. This era really has changed. So you're telling me that the richer and more powerful someone is, the faster and higher their level climbs. Of course, Xiao Ji says matter-of-factly. An ordinary person graduating from school is usually level 15 to 20. After that, most don't have access to dungeons, so they stay at that level for life. If someone lands a job related to dungeons, like a miner or a ranger in a national dungeon, they might reach the low 30s by middle age. The guards here, for example, can use the hero's family dungeon, so they're probably around level 30 already. To go higher, you'd have to be conscripted into the army, or get into an official organization like a major guild or a military academy through the school's assessments. Only then can you enter higher-level dungeons and keep leveling up. Yun Che listens silently, but his mind is already set. If I want to get stronger, that pass is essential. Xiao Ji urges again. Let's just go back. The level gap is too big. No matter how skilled you are, you're no match for those guards. He's right. Yin Che admits to himself. With my current strength, I'm far from ready to take down Ding Kuan, let alone the Supreme King, Luo Wei, who is surrounded by layers of protection. But then his eyes narrow. Still, scouting skills that appear around level 30 are small area skills. Eagle Eye, enhanced hearing, things like that. They can't cover the entire mansion around the clock. And this isn't a life-or-death dungeon run. The guards are complacent. That's all I need. Xiao Ji frowns. Complacent? How do you figure? Yin Che doesn't answer. Instead, he leaps upward, landing silently on a balcony. Compared to the nearly flawless dungeon defenses in my past life, this is far more relaxed. But Xiao Ji is not convinced. Even if you could get inside a privately owned dungeon like this, they could kill us both without consequences. Yin Che suddenly grabs Xiao Ji's shoulder and locks eyes with him. Do you want to change your life? Xiao Ji's voice is firm. Of course I do. But that's only possible if I get into a guild. And if you do get into a guild, Yin Che presses, can you really change things? You're the great-grandson of the so-called traitor Xiao En. Do you think the world will just forget that? Xiao Ji falls silent. A person's destiny can only be changed in the present, Yin Che continues. Not by betting on a what-if you're not even sure about. Inwardly, his resolve hardens. At the very least, I won't let a dungeon like this, right in front of me, slip through my fingers. Yin Che turned to Xiao Ji. You decide for yourself, whether you want to follow me or not. Xiao Ji hesitated for a moment, his brows furrowing. Then, with a deep breath, he nodded. I'll go. I don't want to let you do this alone. Then keep quiet, Yin Che instructed. Inwardly, he analyzed the situation. There are no traces of a summoning-type scouting skill in use here. That means as long as we keep our voices down and stay out of the guard's line of sight, we just need to seize the right moment. I can get us inside easily. True to his calculation, they slipped past the perimeter without incident. Xiao Ji's eyes widened in disbelief. We actually made it in. Ahead of them stood a swirling portal. A dungeon entrance, Yin Che murmured. Underground layout. Its level is slightly higher than the last one we entered. They stepped inside. Yin Che glanced around, his instincts sharp. The monster count is low, he noted. Probably because the Ding family clears them out regularly. Up ahead, only 2 small mobs roamed the tunnel. Yin Che turned to Xiao Ji. Go on. Give it a try. Xiao Ji stared at him in shock. There's no way I can win against them. Try, Yunche said simply. Reluctantly, Xiao Ji moved forward. The monsters immediately lunged at him, their claws striking against his shield. He managed to block, barely, but staggered from the impact. I can't believe I trusted you, he hissed over his shoulder. One of the monsters swung again, the blow nearly slipping past his guard, but Xiaoji twisted his body at the last second, narrowly avoiding the strike. Fight back, Yunche called out, his tone calm but firm. How am I supposed to fight back? Xiaoji shouted, frustration clear in his voice. I'm watching you, Yunche reassured him. Nothing bad will happen. Steeling himself, Xiaoji lunged forward and managed to land a clean hit. But the second monster came in from behind, forcing him to dodge again. From a short distance away, Yunche observed quietly. As I thought, his talent is good. The problem is that he's timid and panics too easily, so he only dares to defend. But his subconscious sense of spatial positioning is extremely accurate. That's why, even though it looks like he's constantly in danger, his actual health loss is minimal. Xiao Ji, however, was sweating heavily. I can't hold out much longer. In that instant, Yunche stepped forward, his blade flashing. With a single decisive strike, both monsters fell. For a brief moment, he thought of his past, of his old comrade. So, the great-grandson of my comrade has finally taken his first step. A system chime rang in the air. Xiao Ji, level up, level 7 achieved. Yunche explained. Experience is distributed based on contribution. If you don't throw the monsters off balance, even if I kill them, you won't gain much EXP. The system also displayed a new loot drop for Yunche, Resentful Blade. How do you usually allocate your attribute points? Yunche asked. Other than spirit, Xiao Ji said, I generally add them evenly. That's not ideal, Yunche replied. Shield bearers usually don't invest in agility. If I don't, Xiao Ji countered, it's hard to find a party at school. No one wants to wait for a slow-moving shield bearer. By the time I get to the monsters, they're already gone. Yunche sighed. You need to think long-term. Advanced class promotions after level 60 have attribute requirements. For example, the Bastion Fortress class requires 60 stamina and 90 defense. You can't just add points randomly. Xiaoji scoffed. The highest an ordinary person reaches in their lifetime is level 40-something. Why would I think about level 60? That's S-rank territory. Yunche stepped closer, his voice steady. From now on, you can start thinking about S-rank, and even beyond S-rank. Xiaoji blinked, taken aback. But then his expression shifted, surprise giving way to determination. Inwardly, Yunche's own thoughts were already shifting. That being said, I should also start planning my own class advancement. My support class only became viable again because of the hidden skill Mirror World. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll probably change too. A chime interrupted his thoughts. System notification, Mirror World, level 1. Defeated monster. Gained 2,000 experience points. Yunche's eyes widened slightly. So, Mirror World can level up as well. Yunche strikes the zombies with his blade, then takes down another zombie as well. The system notifies him that the Trick Blade's ATK has increased up to 70% duration. The defeated zombie still attacks Yunche, making him wonder if it is still alive as he dodges. It is the level 17 zombie Greed Demon. Yunche strikes it again, but his ATK boost disappears. He realizes that the Trick Blade's duration has ended, and even though the skill is powerful, it has too short a duration. He finally kills the zombie Greed Demon and sighs, thinking that his current stamina doesn't allow him to fight for long. Yunche's level increases by 1, making him admit internally that leveling up like this is already much quicker. He has gained a total of 2 levels, now reaching level 17. The system shows him his stats and notifies him that he has killed the zombie elite, obtained loot converted to Mirror World element, and gained an increase in Mirror World EXP. Yunche thinks that by killing these monsters, he gains Mirror World EXP. Suddenly, he notices something and jumps up onto the higher rocks. Below, he sees a group of Ding family guards patrolling the area, making him wonder if they have noticed intruders. Xiao Ji suggests falling back since the number of monsters has already dropped. Yunche agrees with him in his head, thinking that while fighting he also needs to watch out for the guards, and with his Trick Blade's boost duration still limited, he concludes he shouldn't go further. He thinks further that according to the skill book he just obtained, Not every reverse skill is useful in combat. He looks at his mirror world skill description and stats, noting that he still needs 30% more to level up this skill. He thinks that even at level 1 the skill is already strong, which leaves him wondering how powerful it could become after leveling up. He stands up, imagining that after killing the dungeon's boss, he could level up his mirror world skill. Since there's less possibility of leveling this skill in other dungeons, he decides to check the central area's boss. Yunshe and Xiaoji start walking toward the central area. Yunshe notices the frequent use of detection skills in the area, such as Rat Spirit Summon and Owl Summon. While walking, Yunshe spots the dungeon boss, chained up with multiple restraints and surrounded by many guards. Xiaoji says it's his first time seeing a controlled dungeon boss. He adds that the school dungeon boss is usually guarded by teachers and notes that the chains holding this dungeon boss seem like high-level equipment. Yunshe stays silent, thinking that attacking the dungeon boss is risky since it's surrounded by so many guards. He knows he can't kill the boss while it's under siege. Instead, he decides to knock out the guards first and attacks one guard using his trick blade. The guard falls to the ground, and Yunshe removes his hood, saying that he will interrogate him for information. He orders the fallen guard to answer everything he asks. The guard, terrified, asks what Yunshe wants to know and promises to tell him everything, admitting that what the Ding family gives him is not worth dying for. Yunshe freezes for a moment, then decides to ask him about his main objective. The guard, trembling in fear, hesitates but then confirms about the Hero Dungeon Pass. He adds that these are common, as his old master has many of them piled up in his study. The guard smiles, assuming Yunshe is just a fan of the hero grandpa. Yunshe's aura intensifies in rage, and the guard yells that he is speaking the truth. He explains that he has seen his old master taking the passes from the study to leave with the guard captain. He also remarks that those passes are only for temporary use and are unregistered, so without internal assistance, anyone using them would surely get questioned by the guards later. Yunshe grabs the guard by his collar and tells him not to worry, instructing him to empty his system inventory. After some time, Yunshe, still holding the guard by the collar, and Xiaoji come out of the dungeon and enter the Ding family compound. Yunshe, with the guard in hand and a chanter skill book, asks the guard if he only possesses this book. The guard nervously confirms. The guard explains that the Ding family is greedy. They take all the dungeon drops while the guards only get scraps, with all the major treasures stored inside the inner residence. The system notifies Yunshe that he has learned Sunlight Baptism and Moonlight Blessing reversed. They reach the inner residence, where the guard tells Yunshe that the guards are not allowed to enter without summons. He adds that everyone inside is level 30 plus with top-tier gear, except for young Ding Su, which means the people inside don't even need guards. Yunshe leans toward the guard and asks if the pass is inside the inner residence. The guard confirms that it is not, but says that the head of the family is there. Yunshe and Xiaoji stand in the courtyard, knowing that the family head, who is level 42, resides within the inner residence. The guard warns Yunshe that he won't be able to win against the family head, and explains that the old master and the third head are level 50 plus, though they are currently away on business. It would be even more dangerous if they returned. While thinking about the family head, Yunshe knocks the guard unconscious, and the man collapses to the ground. Yunshe then calls Xiaoji and instructs him to stay put, reasoning that all they need to do is draw the family head out. Yunshe heads back into the dungeon and arrives at the dungeon boss's location. He notes that the dungeon won't disappear as long as the boss is alive, which is why the Ding family has used high-level chains to restrain it. He observes that the key lies in the chain's lock mechanism. Yunshe recalls that he mastered unlocking these kinds of chains in his past life. He sneaks up on one of the guards and kills him skillfully. The chain starts to glow, alarming the other guards. Yunshe quickly covers his face as the glowing chains begin to thrash wildly. The chains are level 60. Yunshe thinks to himself that this is the perfect plan to lure out the family head. The dungeon boss rises as it breaks free from the chains. Guards panic and shout that the boss has gone berserk. Outside the dungeon, the family head sends reinforcements rushing inside, while Xiaoji watches from a distance. Inside the dungeon, Yunshe acquires the level 60 combat chain and confidently thinks that with this, they can now easily enter the inner residence. At the entrance of the inner residence of the Ding family compound, two cars stop. The butler welcomes the second master and the young master as he opens the car door. Ding Hao, level 42 and the second head of the Ding family, steps out along with Ding Su. Ding Su feels embarrassed to be greeted by the second head in his current state, all because of Yun Che, while Ding Hao shrugs it off, calling it a trivial matter. Ding Hao happily leans down to open the car door for Yun Sha. Yun Sha, accompanied by a black-haired girl, steps out of the car. Ding Hao welcomes them to his house, but a servant standing ahead bows nervously. Upon noticing it, Ding Hao becomes furious and instantly kicks the servant hard, ordering him not to stand in the way. The four of them enter the inner residence while the servant lies outside on the ground. Xiao Ji watches the entire scene from a distance. Yun Che suddenly appears behind him, asking what happened and wondering why he looks so sad. Xiao Ji, startled, asks how Yun Che has returned so quickly. Yun Che explains that the dungeon lord is not easy to defeat even at level 30, so without him needing to make a move, it will take the Ding family a long time to bring it down. Yun Che again asks Xiao Ji what he saw. Xiao Ji points toward the servant in the red shirt and says that he is his youngest uncle, Xiao Li, level 17. Yun Che silently listens as Xiao Ji continues, saying that when Yun Che rebelled in the past, his family had already been taken down. That meant they did not have to endure further humiliation afterward. Yun Che gulps. Xiao Ji continues, explaining that ever since then, the Qiao family has borne the empire's hatred continuously. Under the secret instructions of the hero Ding Kuan, they were mistreated more and more until they ultimately decided to become servants of the Ding family. The Qiao family was forced to appear from time to time to showcase the hero family's so-called power and benevolence. Biting his lip, Xiao Ji says that the Qiao family can only watch the Ding family's expressions to survive and continue their miserable lives. He recalls how his father's generation had also tried to change things, but the result was tragic. His father lost his head and became a madman. Yun Che clenches his fist in silence, while Xiao Ji wonders if following Yun Che was truly the right choice. Yun Che steps past him, saying he needs to go inside. Xiao Ji instantly shouts that Ding Su's father is present, fully equipped at level 42, and if he notices Yun Che, it will mean death. Yun Che firmly responds that during times when dungeons are being controlled, if one doesn't take risks, then there is no hope of changing their lives. He tells Xiao Ji that if he hesitates, nothing will ever be achieved. Yun Che turns to face him and offers his hand, telling Xiao Ji that this is his chance to change his life, but the decision must be his. He won't force him to fight. Frightened, Xiao Ji says that the Ding family is far too powerful and has immense influence. He questions if they can really go against them. Yun Che, readying himself, says that he wants to fight not just the Ding family but the entire empire. With that, he leaps into the air, leaving Xiao Ji behind. Inside the inner residence, Ding Hao is sitting on the sofa. He asks his maid how the dungeon boss managed to break free from its chains. Yin Sha addresses him as her uncle and asks if they came at a bad time. Ding Hao smiles, denying it, and says his older brother will take care of it. He remarks that a small dungeon like this is not more important than her. He adds that after hearing about her visit, his father and third brother immediately began heading back, and managing this situation will be easy. They have even reported it to Hero Grandpa, who can't wait to meet her. Up above, Yun Che hides in the balcony, listening. He wonders who this Hero Grandpa is. Could it be Ding Kuan? Yun Che remembers that a pass is needed to enter the hero's dungeon, and now he starts wondering about Yin Sha. The way she is being treated makes him certain her status is high. Thinking about her surname, Yun, he notes that they share the same surname and questions whether it is really just a coincidence. Yun Che moves from there while reminding himself to focus only on the pass, while the black-haired girl notices something from below. The maids continue to chatter as Yun Che slips through a door and enters a room, arriving at the study. At that same moment, the family head along with his subordinates returns from the dungeon. The family head remarks that they have finally suppressed the dungeon boss, adding that it was being released with an evil intention, but they were unable to find any traces of the person responsible. He states that no one would take such a huge risk just to get their hands on high-grade equipment. The family head immediately orders the house to be covered, and his guards quickly follow. He thinks to himself that they cannot allow any accident to happen, especially since Yunsha has finally come to visit them. Inside the study, Yunsha opens the drawers but finds nothing. He recalls what the guard he interrogated earlier said, that there were plenty of passes stored there. Yunsha then uses his skill phasing to open a locked drawer. Inside, he discovers a diary, which he curiously picks up. In an instant, the diary and other books transform into high-quality skill books. The system displays the description of these books. They reduce the speed of enemy units within a 20-meter radius by 20%. Meanwhile, the Ding family guards surround the inner residence. Xiao Ji, hiding among the plants, trembles as he notices all the guards have gathered there. He wonders if they have been discovered. Fear grips him as he thinks that if Yunsha doesn't come out soon, he himself will surely be killed. Cold sweat runs down his face as he remembers how his father and uncle died. He fears that if they catch him, the Ding family will gain yet another excuse to humiliate what remains of his family. Clenching his fists, he decides to save himself by slipping away quietly. Just as Xiao Ji nervously starts to move, a guard begins walking in his direction. At that moment, Xiao Ji recalls Yunsha's words about helping him change his life. With desperation, he screams loudly, drawing the guard's attention. Instantly, several guards rush toward Xiao Ji. As he runs, he secretly hopes that Yunsha escapes while he leads the guards away. Inside, Yunsha smashes through a window, shattering the glass as he leaps outside the inner residence. Hearing Xiao Ji scream, he smiles, realizing that Xiao Ji has finally made up his mind to fight back. Moving forward, Yunsha deliberately yells at the guards, claiming that he has obtained the chains and skill books, provoking them to chase him and reclaim the items. The guards immediately start running after him. Yunsha activates his slowing aura, which reduces the speed of enemies by 20% for 60 seconds, and then follows it with his accelerating aura, boosting the speed of friendly units by 30% for 60 seconds. The family head, upon realizing what is happening, orders his second and third squads to return immediately to protect the dungeon boss. He declares that the intruder is not heading for the exit but for the dungeon itself. Xiao Ji is left stunned, watching Yunsha lead all of the people in the opposite direction. Yunsha, running at full speed, thinks to himself that with so many guards now outside, the dungeon boss should be left poorly protected. He reasons that to keep the boss under control, the Ding family must have already fought a difficult battle, which means the boss is now at its weakest state. If he kills it now, he will be able to level up his mirror world skill. Noises from outside begin to echo into the inner residence. Yunsha remarks that it sounds quite noisy outside and suggests to Ding Hao that he doesn't need to personally accompany her here. Ding Hao calmly reassures her, saying it is just a thief and that his elder brother can easily handle the matter. Outside, Ding Yi, the family head, yells at his guards not to block his path. He criticizes their lack of speed and orders them to flank from the opposite side to reach the dungeon boss. He commands his rogues and archers to follow him to capture the intruder. Meanwhile, Yunsha, sprinting forward, notices Ding Yi pursuing him. Yunsha recalls that every class gains 3 attribute points upon leveling up, and he has invested half of his points into agility. While dodging enemy attacks, he reminds himself that he has acceleration skills as well. With a powerful leap, he thinks that at level 30, only archers and rogues should be able to keep pace with him. Yunsha arrives at the central area where the dungeon boss lies, bound with chains and seals. Observing its weakened state, Yunsha wonders if the Ding family is truly so afraid of it that they keep it sealed so tightly. He realizes this is the boss's weakest condition and decides to release all his power at once to kill it in a single strike. The guards shout that Yunsha is present and begin to form their positions. Yunsha charges forward, activating chaotic thorns. The guards freeze in shock upon seeing the skill. One of them wonders aloud what kind of ability it is, while another admits he has never seen it before. As the guards remain unable to move, one suddenly realizes the truth, that it is a skill granting abnormal status. He exclaims that humans' resistance to abnormal statuses is much weaker compared to monsters, and wonders how it was applied so easily. A sudden blast erupts. One guard is struck, and another rushes to help. A black-haired guard shouts in alarm that someone has been hit. Another cloaked guard looks confused, while the black-haired one yells that this is possible only because the abnormal status effect is active. Yun-Che advances, taking down the guards in his path with his blade. He thinks that if he can break through this group, he can reach the dungeon boss, which is already at low HP. Charging through, he hears the guards shouting at one another, questioning why the shield bearers aren't blocking the intruder and why crowd control skills aren't being used. Another shouts not to use any skills recklessly. Yun-Che smirks, calling them a motley crew in his head, and thinks they have zero experience in real combat. He wonders if long-lasting peace has dulled their edge, leading to their downfall. The enemy leader finally orders his team to calm down, reminding them that Yun-Che is just one person. As long as they overpower him together, he will fall. At that moment, Ding Yi arrives and commands his men to stop Yun-Che. Fully equipping himself, he leaps forward with his blazing axe, fire swirling around him. Yun-Che braces himself, preparing to counter. He decides to use the level 60 combat chains. He knows his level is not high enough to equip them properly, so he cannot gain their full stats, but he can still wield their raw power. As he steps forward, a massive purple skeletal arm appears around him, gripping the glowing chains. With immense force, Yun-Che strikes, his skeletal arm colliding with Ding Yi's beam of flames. The blast redirects toward the dungeon boss's seal, breaking through and striking the boss directly. Yun-Che shouts in triumph, thanking Ding Yi for the final push, while Ding Yi can only scream back in rage. Yun-Che strikes at the dungeon boss from multiple directions as the guards watch in disbelief. The boss falls down defeated. The system notifies Yun-Che that he has gained 3 levels, reaching level 20. His mirror world experience points max out, and his skill upgrades. Ding Yi grits his teeth, gripping his weapon in fury, and orders his guards to capture Yun-Che. They all rush forward, but before Ding Yi can land a strike, Yun-Che activates his mirror world skill. In an instant, he vanishes, leaving Ding Yi screaming in frustration. Now within the mirror world, Ding Yi and his guards are also present, but they stand frozen like statues, unable to move. As Yun-Che looks around in awe, the system notifies him, mirror walk activated. Remaining time, 29 minutes, 51 seconds. Yun-Che wonders if this is truly the world inside the mirror. Yun-Che touches a guard, and his hand passes straight through the body as if it were made of smoke. This makes him think that everything here is reversed left and right compared to the real world. And to him, these guards appear more like illusions. He sits down and holds a mirror shard, realizing he was wrong to think they were just illusions. When he lifts the shard, the system notifies him that he can bring the mirror shard out into reality. Yun-Che wonders if, after his mirror reversal skill reaches level 2, he will be able to bring other things out of the mirror world as well. He raises his hand to open his stat window, curious to see if the system interface also changes here. Checking his skill list, he notices that some of the skills are not yet activated. He also finds a section labeled base skills, which are not yet learned. He realizes this list shows the reversed forms of all skills, and he concludes that he must learn the base skills in the real world in order to activate their reversed versions here. He thinks that level 1 of mirror reversal was just a simplified version compared to level 2. As he scrolls through his skills, Yun-Che begins thinking ahead, selecting strong skill combinations in advance so he can plan for his future class progression. Suddenly, he turns his head, noticing something strange. Floating in the air are several soul-like forms. He wonders if they are really souls and questions whether others exist here as well. One of these soul-like forms suddenly transforms into a skeleton engulfed in green flames, rushing toward the ground where Yun-Che is standing. Yun-Che wonders if it has turned into an undead creature. Gripping his blade tightly, he strikes at the flaming skeleton from several angles. To him, the creature doesn't feel particularly strong. A system window pops up, catching his attention. The system asks if he wants to form a contract with the soul. It explains that after forming a contract, the soul can leave the mirror world and fight beside him. Its maximum level is 15, equal to Yun-Che's current level, and he can form up to 20 contracts in total. Yun-Che realizes that he can take souls out after defeating them. He concludes that the mirror world doesn't just allow him to extract stones and items. It even lets him bring the undead into the real world. Looking up, he sees countless more souls floating above him, and calls the discovery interesting. Meanwhile, in the real world, the guards emerge from the dungeon, now inside a cave, confused as to why the intruder hasn't appeared even though the dungeon itself has vanished. One guard wonders where the intruder could have gone, while another suggests it might be the work of a rogue's stealth skill. A purple-haired guard scoffs while tossing his dagger, saying that stealth always has a time limit and cannot remain undetected forever. Ding E, furious, grabs the purple-haired guard by the head and pushes him aside, shouting that if it wasn't stealth, then what was it? He yells at all of them, demanding to know how they let the intruder escape when there were so many of them. He threatens that if they don't find the intruder, they will all pay for the dungeon loss. At that exact moment, Yunche suddenly appears right behind them. Ding E and the purple-haired guard turn in shock to see him, while Yunche calmly studies his system window. He notes aloud that the time limit of Mirror Walk has ended and wonders if he will return to his original place or if there are additional conditions. Ding E roars in rage, ordering his guards to capture him. Yunche smirks, telling them to be patient. Leaning forward, he activates his skill, announcing that it's now his turn to return the favor after being attacked by all of them together. He summons the undead creatures he contracted, and the place fills with eerie green flames. Yunche laughs coldly, telling them to taste his undead army. The guards, terrified, cry out in panic, asking what the creatures are and speculating whether they are ghosts. Ding E quickly calms them, instructing them not to panic, explaining that they are just undead monsters. He declares confidently that he has seen many in his lifetime. As one undead approaches a guard holding a shield, its status bar becomes visible. The guard shouts in relief that they are only level 20. Ding E smirks, repeating that he told them to stay calm. He rallies his men, promising a bonus to anyone who catches Yunche, and the guards charge enthusiastically. But midway, they pause in confusion. They can't see Yunche anywhere. They begin shouting, wondering where he disappeared to. In truth, Yunche is already sprinting toward the cave exit. He thinks to himself that his undead creatures are still too low in level, and if only he had stronger ones, he could have wiped out the entire motley group. He reminds himself that he has already filled all 20 contracts with what he deemed the strongest options available. The mirror world has its limitations. Once inside, he can only move within a radius of 200 meters. He decides that by exploring the mirror world in different locations, he might discover higher-level undead creatures to contract. As he runs, Yunche spots Xiao Ji being restrained by a Ding family guard. The guard sneers that Xiao is good at hiding, but he won't let him escape because no one knows what rewards await for capturing him. Yunche rushes forward and strikes the guard, forcing him to release Xiao Ji. Xiao Ji's eyes immediately turn to Yunche, who grabs him by the collar and tells him they are leaving. Yunche admits to himself that he has caused quite a mess and tells Xiao Ji firmly that they are heading back so he can count his gains. The guards are still fighting the undead creatures in the cave. One of them strikes down an undead, killing it, but then remarks that although these things are not very strong, he wonders why they revive after being killed. Suddenly, purple waves of energy surge through the air, eliminating all the undead at once. The guards look upward as a man steps forward, exhaling. It is Dingu, the third head of the Ding family, level 52. He explains that these creatures are being summoned. No matter how many times they revive, they consume magic points, and if they are killed enough times, they disappear completely. An old man with a beard asks if Yun Sha has left. Ding Hao, the second head, bows to his father, apologizing that he was not able to keep her here. He adds that the intruder was unusually bold, not only running freely around their residence, but even breaking through a window of their house. Ding Dan frowns, furious, saying that the intruder dared to break into their inner residence. He scolds his son, asking how they conduct themselves when they could neither capture the intruder nor even identify his face. Ding Hao, still bowing, accepts his mistakes but then adds that Yun Sha agreed to go to the hero's dungeon, remarking that at least their grandfather's matter faced no issues. Ding Dan, still frowning and disturbed by the incident, declares that once they discover who the intruders are, they will simply kill them, and he orders Ding Hao to find out quickly what else has been stolen. Elsewhere, Yunche holds the dungeon pass, thinking that he has finally obtained it, but has not yet found anyone who can take him into the hero's dungeon. He shrugs it off, deciding there is no need to rush. He recalls that he leveled up to 20 at Ding Su's house, and that his Chimera Bone ring is now damaged up to 94%. Still, he succeeded in obtaining more than 10 skill books from their private collection. Holding one of the books, he notes that the chants are all support skills he can use to stack his attributes. With enough of them, he believes he can overpower others at his level by stats alone. The system notifies him that he has gained boost combat power from the skill book. He also obtained the Corrupted Knight's armor, a piece of equipment dropped by the dungeon boss that will be useful in the future. Most importantly, he has leveled up his Mirror World skill from level 1 to level 2. Yunche reflects that the summoning power he gained from the Mirror World has increased his combat ability, but it is still not enough. Remembering the equipment on the statue of the so-called hero, he concludes that the hero must at least be an S-Rank Berserk class branch. He believes he will need to make a contract with a soul from the Mirror World of equal rank to reach level 50 or higher before he can even hope to defeat him. Beside him, Xiaoji asks worriedly if the Ding family can catch them. Yunche glances at him and assures him that they have lost their pursuers and, since they never showed their faces, it will not be a problem. Still, Xiaoji remains nervous. Yunche considers that Xiaoji is still young and has already suffered a great deal. He asks Xiaoji if there are any dungeons nearby where a powerful person has died in the past. Xiao repeats the question in confusion, so Yunche clarifies that he is searching for a high-level dungeon to grow stronger, adding that Xiao will soon understand. After thinking, Xiaoji admits there is such a dungeon, narrowing his eyes as he mutters that it is the school's dungeon, but warns that they have no chance of sneaking in there. Yunche reflects that the school's dungeon is monopolized and concludes that he will need to rely on special methods. Later, he presents 2 of the skill books he obtained to his teacher. The teacher is shocked to see a purple-quality skill book. Clearing his throat, he thinks to himself that Yunche must have powerful backing. He explains that it is not within his control to open the school's dungeon, as access is already predetermined, but he adds that the dungeon has been opened for those about to graduate. Juniors, however, are not normally allowed inside. Yunche smiles, and the teacher explains that if a student is extraordinary, he can join the expedition with a teacher's recommendation. He assures Yunche that he will do everything he can to secure him a spot. Later, at the entrance to the school's dungeon, Yunche and many other students gather. One black-haired student remarks that this may be his last dungeon, so he will do his best to grind as many monsters as possible. His friend, wielding metal claws, adds that they wouldn't even have this opportunity without the hero's gift. The black-haired boy thanks the hero. Yunche, however, senses that something feels off about this dungeon. Their teacher steps forward and tells him that this valiant dungeon was gifted to the school by the hero. He adds that according to rumors, the hero once fought inside this dungeon, so there may be traces of him left there. Behind Yunche, Xiaoji stands gloomily, clenching his fists. He nervously thinks about the valiant dungeon, knowing it is the place where the hero valiantly killed the traitor Qiaoan. He debates whether he should tell Yunche the truth. The teacher gives a stern warning, saying the dungeon is very dangerous, and instructs everyone to take care and act within their limits. He then calls Xie, another student, and instructs him to take care of the group. Xie frowns and complains, asking how he is supposed to level up like this. The teacher shrugs it off, telling him to go, since the dungeon is already open. Xie mutters about having to look after juniors as he steps onto the stairs, grumbling that he now has to babysit 2 useless kids. Pointing at Yunche, he orders him to stay behind once they enter the dungeon, or else he will leave him there. Yunche and Xiaoji step up as well. Yunche thinks to himself that even though it is only a level 20 to 40 dungeon, it gives off a dangerous feeling. The students enter the dungeon and walk through a tunnel lined with glowing blue crystals. Xie notices Yunsha and Yunyun, wondering what they are doing there since their grades are lower. He then points at Yunche and Xiaoji, saying that they also have lower grades, before smugly suggesting that it would be better if Yunsha joined his side. The student wearing a battle mask interrupts Xie, telling him to stop dreaming and pointing out that Yunsha and Yunyun are already above level 30. Xie freaks out as the masked student adds that Xie isn't even on their level. Embarrassed, Xie waves his hand, pretending to acknowledge the point. Yunsha and Yun begin walking towards Xie, but instead of stopping near him, they pass by, leaving him stunned. They approach Yunche. At first, Yunche doesn't recognize Yunsha, but then recalls she was the guest at the Ding family, the one of high status, and wonders why she has come to him. He questions whether she knows the original owner of his body or if she is here to defend Ding Su. Yunsha tells him she saw him at the memorial yesterday, praising his movements and his distinct voice. Yunche, unable to fully understand her intent, assumes she is simply making casual conversation. Yunsha leans in, saying that was the reason she recognized him even amidst the sound of shattering glass. Yunche is stunned that she identified him from just the 2 sentences he shouted the day before. As she walks away, she changes her equipment and waves, saying her greeting is finished for today and that she and Yun will be going to explore. Yun also changes her equipment as she follows. Yunche stands still, reflecting that even though Yunsha recognized him, she chose not to expose him publicly and simply gave a subtle reminder instead. He wonders if Xing who might have also recognized their voices, but reassures himself that it will be fine as long as the Ding family does not pursue them anytime soon. He thinks that with his current leveling speed, he won't have to worry for long. Considering that Yunsha showed him kindness, he decides to give them a warning, telling Yunsha and Yun to be careful because this dungeon gives off a dangerous vibe. They both take his words seriously. Yunsha admits that since he mentioned it, she also feels something strange, but assures him that with her level, she won't face any real danger. She thanks him for the warning. A group of students nearby are stunned to see Yunsha acting so openly with him. One holding a staff remarks that she is usually distant, so why is she behaving differently with Yunche? All of them surround Yunche, asking how he knows Yunsha and if he can introduce them to her. Yunche brushes them off, saying they need to move forward. The students protest, asking how the 2 of them can go alone when the monsters here are at least level 20, warning that both of them will die even to a basic monster. Xie interrupts the group, telling them to leave Yunche and Xiaoji alone. He reasons that if Yunche is close with Yunsha, that must mean he is also strong. One of the girls reminds them that Teacher Li instructed them to look after the juniors. Xie cuts her off, reminding them why they are really there, pointing out that the fewer people who know about this place, the better. He asks if they really want to share those precious crystals with Yunche and Xiaoji. He instructs his group to keep their distress flares ready and to ignore Yunche and Xiaoji entirely. Still, Xie is in a foul mood, fuming over how someone like Yunche could be close to Yunsha. Looking upward, he bitterly thinks that Yunche deserves to die for overestimating himself. At the entrance to the dungeon, Ding Su comes running toward a teacher. The teacher asks why he is there, and Ding Su demands information about the team that just went inside. The teacher asks what he wants, and Ding Hao, who is nearby, reminds Ding Su that just because Yunche beat him at the memorial doesn't mean he can blame him and Xiaoji for what happened today. He adds that he doesn't have time to deal with Ding Su's mess. Ding Su yells that he knows their voices and insists it was truly them who broke into their residence. Ding Yi adds that a student couldn't possibly have escaped from him and so many guards, while Ding Gu challenges Ding Su to prove that Yunche and Xiaoji are stronger than the guards, or else he won't help him. Ding Dan silences them all, reminding them that they are discussing business, and orders Ding Su not to disturb them further. Ignoring the warning, Ding Su grabs the teacher by the collar, demanding to know if Yunche and Xiaoji went into the dungeon, and resolves to enter it himself. Yunche strikes and takes down a level 20 monster inside the dungeon. Another monster appears and starts to fire its attack toward him, launching multiple laser beams. Yunche calls out to Xiaoji, and Xiaoji activates his surrounding shield on Yunche. The shield can only be used on one unit, lasts for 3 minutes, and grants 500 durability and 700 defense. Xiaoji cheers, seeing Yunche surrounded by golden flames. Yunche charges forward with his trick blade, boosted by Xiaoji's encouraging shout, which increases his power and speed by 5%. He leaps above the monster and strikes it down with his blade. After killing the monster, Yunche levels up to level 21. Xiaoji checks his stats as well and happily announces that he has leveled up too. His current level is now 11. Yunche glances at the library of skill books he obtained from the Ding family. noting that among them are the skills Surrounding Shield and Encouraging Shout, which Xiao Ji can already learn at his current level. As Yunche walks away, he admits to himself that the monsters here are high level, but with Xiao Ji's support skills, managing them is possible. The two continue forward, surrounded by blue reflecting crystals. Yunche recalls that the teacher mentioned this dungeon contains a rare monster called the Obsidian Beast. Defeating it can grant the support type skill Gravitational Pull, a base skill already marked in his Mirror World list as a must-learn. Yunche thinks not only about the Obsidian Beast, but also about the undead creatures he might encounter. He wonders where a strong person may have died in this dungeon, believing their soul might still linger, and hopes to find them in higher ground. Suddenly, Yunche freezes. He spots a purple crystalled monster above and realizes more are grouping together in the Crystal Pillar Canyon. From their cliff vantage point, Yunche and Xiao Ji observe these elite-grade radiant stone beasts. Yunche is stunned to see them moving together as a group. He notes the monsters have already roamed up to 1 kilometer, far beyond the usual range, and realizes they are wandering type. Wandering monsters roam freely in dungeons, often appearing in the same locations, and are stronger than normal monsters. Gripping his blade, Yunche jumps down from the cliff toward the wandering monsters. He recalls that in the early days, when humanity was weak, encountering wandering monsters meant preparing for a brutal fight, since they could even leave the dungeon and cause catastrophic dungeon disasters. Yet, despite the danger, killing them provides far greater EXP and higher quality loot than normal monsters. Yunche strikes at an obsidian crystal wall monster, but quickly realizes these monsters are far too strong. For now, he decides only to examine them. As he studies the creature, he notices it has healed itself, making him wonder if it has a continuous healing skill. 2 more monsters step forward and unleash laser beams. Xiaoji immediately activates his shield around Yunche, but Yunche is struck by one of the beams, and he thinks to himself that their attacks are faster and more frequent than before. Even at full speed, he cannot dodge them all. Summoning his undead army, Yunche notes that his defense and HP have dropped dangerously low. If not for Xiaoji's surrounding shield, he might have been severely injured. His undead creatures appear at level 23, but even they cannot hold back the radiant stone beasts. Realizing the monsters are too powerful, Yunche seizes an opportunity to retreat. He thinks to himself that while the monsters are slow, his HP and defense won't improve anytime soon. Reaching Xiaoji, Yunche concludes that he needs a defense boost from Xiaoji's level up to fight these monsters properly. He suggests that Xiaoji target some normal monsters, startling him. At the low-level grinding zone, Xiaoji, clad in armor, stands opposite a monster. Yunche recalls having seen many monsters from higher ground earlier, perfect opponents for Xiaoji to level up on. Xiaoji blocks the monster's strike with his basic shield, while Yunche reflects on the importance of shield bearers. They are essential as the first line of defense, allowing other units to attack safely from behind while absorbing the enemy's damage. Yunche smiles as he thinks that since Xiaoji's last dungeon battle, all of his stats were put into defense, and he has also obtained the armor looted from the Ding family's guards. Now Xiaoji has the core defense abilities required for a shield bearer, which makes it easier for him to block level 20 monsters' attacks. Yunche yells toward Xiaoji to sink his body and steady his stance, instructing him to swing his shield in the direction of the attack. The durability of his shield drops less than before, so Xiaoji happily tells this to Yunche. In the following moment, Yunche shouts at Xiaoji to protect himself from the follow-up attacks, but Xiaoji receives a powerful strike from the monster, slamming him into a large crystal. He groans in pain, so Yunche steps in and strikes the monster, freeing Xiaoji. Yunche advises him to always pay attention to the enemy's next attack and to keep enough space to handle it by not overswinging his shield. Xiaoji stands up and listens carefully to what Yunche is telling him. Yunche advises him to keep his body relaxed while staying alert, only tightening at the moment of defense. He thumps Xiaoji's armor and tells him to continue. Yunche also reminds him that since he is behind his back, as a shield bearer, Xiaoji must always be aware of his teammates' movements. Xiaoji readies himself with determined eyes and defends against the monster's attacks with his shield, while Yun-Che counters with his blade. Yun-Che gives him a tip that when the difference in strength is not too big, then victory or defeat is only determined by techniques. After some time, Yun-Che and Xiao Ji are standing together after defeating the monsters they were fighting. Yun-Che levels up to 22 and thinks that now Xiao Ji can easily face enemies while gaining more EXP in return. Xiao Ji happily says that he has reached level 15, which means he can finally learn his new skill through a shield armor skill book. He learns it, while Yun-Che notes that this is the last skill book from which Xiao Ji can gain anything, the ones looted from the Ding family. Yun-Che further thinks that this skill will add outer armor to his summoned undead creatures, and the defense boost from shield armor will be more than enough to take down an elite-level wandering-type monster. At the Crystal Pillar Canyon, 3 of the teachers observe the elite wandering-type monsters. Leilai wonders where these monsters have come from and remarks that this is too dangerous for students, so they need to handle it themselves. Lei-In adds that they are able to handle level 30 monsters, but the ones they are seeing ahead are even stronger. A flare is fired into the sky, and the teachers remark that it is a student distress signal. The teachers stand up instantly, and Leilai says that first, they need to rescue the students in need. Lei-In argues that if they leave the wandering-type monsters behind, then there are high chances that students may run into them. Zhuangzheng agrees and takes responsibility, saying he will stay there. Leilai prepares to leave as golden flames cover his body, and he says that Zhuangzheng will stay just in case. Yun-Che and Xiaoji suddenly appear behind them. Yun-Che says that they will take care of this side and adds that the rescue signal could also be due to the wandering-type monsters, so only 2 teachers won't be enough. Leilai turns toward them, trying to know their identities, but Yun-Che begins to explain that these wandering-type monsters move slowly and have not detected them yet. If one watches from afar, then they will be absolutely fine. The teachers think for a moment and then decide to go. Leilai warns them that those monsters are extremely dangerous and instructs them not to act on their own. He adds that they need to hide themselves well because if they get spotted, it will be impossible to escape. Yun-Che, with confidence, says that it's the monsters instead who will not escape. Yun-Che strikes and takes down the monster. The undead creatures are also present, and Yun-Che sweats a bit when the monster begins gathering energy to attack. Xiao Ji calls out loudly, activating surrounding shield and shield armor to defend. A beam of light strikes one of the undead creatures hard. Yun-Che quickly strikes at the monster from different directions, and the monster takes damage. Hoping to finish it, Yun-Che leaps above and strikes from multiple angles, defeating the monster. The system announces the defeat of a level 30 wandering-type monster, and a purple beam of light appears. Yun-Che thinks that successfully defeating one wandering-type monster is helping him get used to this class, but compared to his previous life, he is still far from catching up. Moving through his undead army, Yun-Che jumps high and takes down another monster with a single strike, reflecting that using reversal skills increases his attack to some degree. However, he notes the base attack of a support class is too low, and he thinks that raising his attack power would make a big difference. Landing on the ground, he checks his system window and sees that he has leveled up again. As expected from an elite rare monster, killing it yields significant EXP. The system prompts him to pick up the dropped items. He steps forward, and the system shows the loot he has collected. Yun-Che widens his eyes. He has obtained a high attack weapon, the Crystal Longsword, boasting 552 attack points. Smiling, Yun-Che thinks this finally fills the gap in his base attack. He stands confidently, holding his new sword sparkling with lightning, thinking battles will now be much easier. Still, he feels disappointed that the skill book gravity pulled did not drop, noting its low drop rate. As Yun-Che reflects on the wandering-type monsters, a flare lights up the sky. He recognizes it as coming from the same direction where the earlier distress signal appeared, but now it's a special grade signal, only used by teacher squads. Elsewhere, Leilai, worn out and gritting his teeth, maintains a shield around himself and a group of students. They are cornered by wandering-type monsters, leaving them nowhere to go. He wonders aloud why so many of these monsters are gathering here. On higher ground, more students are present, protected by barriers while the wandering-type monsters surround them, aiming light beams at the shields. Yunsha and Yun-Yun are among them. Yinsha asks what happened for so many monsters to gather here. Zhuangzheng approaches her, explaining that the reason is still unclear. He says they came after following the signal and points to the cave where others are trapped inside. He adds that they are trying to organize a rescue, but the number of monsters is too high, and even with all the teachers, they lack manpower. Yinsha, standing quietly in the crowd, listens. Zhuangzheng requests Yinsha's help. Smiling, she raises her hand, forming a sparkly cross star, saying it is their duty. She transforms the small cross star into a massive one, sending 6 stars into the air and forming glowing golden magic circles beneath her feet. Yinsha's skill boosts mental power by 2% and attack power by 20%. An orange-haired girl remarks that the buff is incredibly strong, while a curly-haired boy behind her says it's at least epic level. A monster charges at Yinsha, but she dodges by floating into the air. Yun steps in and strikes the monster with her dagger, defeating it. From higher ground, Yinsha observes, while students behind him praise Yinsha and Yun's strength. One says they are powerful enough to rescue those inside, while another is stunned by their abilities. Yinsha notes that not just their gear, but their skills are formidable as well, and he thinks that even without him, things will go smoothly. Still, while observing, he wonders what could possibly draw this many wandering-type monsters here. Deciding to investigate, he tells Xiao Ji to stay behind as he goes to take a look inside. Yinsha activates his mirror walk, and the system begins the 30-minute countdown. Looking around, he remarks that the entire place is filled with crystals and mirrors, concluding he can enter the mirror world at any time. He notes he has no time to test the return to reality process, remembering that yesterday at the Ding residence, once the mirror world timed out, he could not re-enter. As he passes through the defender's zone, he wonders why people have reflections, but monsters do not. Moving forward, and questions whether he is the only living being with a physical form in the mirror world. Entering the cave, he finds Xie standing inside, trembling with fear. Yinsha walks further into the cave, thinking it looks like they were the ones who triggered the wandering-type monsters to gather here and fire the distress signal. He notes that using the narrow terrain to defend themselves means they won't be in immediate danger. Still, curiosity gnaws at him about what exactly caused the monsters to gather here. Moving deeper, he pauses as he sees something unusual, wondering how something like that could possibly exist here. Yinsha discovers a special crystal ore, realizing this must be the reason why Xie and his group gathered in the cave. He explains to himself that, compared to ordinary crystals from the outside world, dungeons produce materials that cannot be found elsewhere. These rare items can be used by lifetime professionals to craft gear, accessories, and other valuable items. Yinsha remarks that these ores are far more precious than gold. He reaches out to collect the crystal, and the system notifies him that this item can be taken back to the real world. Yinsha pauses, wondering about the implications. He concludes that as long as there is a mirror surface, he can return to reality from within the mirror world. Smiling, he collects the crystal and notes that there are still many things to discover with this skill, so he needs to take his time and research it carefully. As he walks deeper to explore the cave, Yinsha observes that the ore is present in enormous quantities. If all of it were mined at once, it would be enough to turn an ordinary person into a billionaire. Because of its importance, it's clear why so many wandering-type monsters are gathering in this area. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yinsha and Yun continue fighting monsters. One of the students asks if all of their skills are epic tier, marveling at their overwhelming power. Another student whispers that they seem even stronger than the teachers. Yun strikes down a monster right in front of Xie and his companions, saving them. The group, who thought they were about to die, express relief. Yun tells them to stay alert, reminding them that they still need to fight their way out, and that everyone else is already exhausted. Standing behind her, Yinsha says that things have become easier now, but then notices something. At the same time, Xie and his companion freeze in terror. They all see it. They have been surrounded by hundreds, even thousands of monsters. One of the students shouts in panic that all of the wandering types from the entire dungeon have gathered here. Inside the mirror world, Yinsha strikes his way through crystal walls, noting that the place feels like a maze. Suddenly, His eyes widen as he sees a massive, glowing crystal above. He wonders if this could be the dungeon's hidden treasure. Yun-Che explains to himself that if various crystal ores are merely dungeon products, then the crystal core he is now seeing must be the dungeon's one and only hidden treasure. This treasure is the crystallized essence of all rare products within the dungeon. It takes an extremely long time to form and appears only at irregular intervals, so rare that a normal person might never see one in their lifetime. That is why hidden treasures always have special functions. Yun-Che smiles as he obtains the mirror crystal core. Its properties show no level requirement, but it increases stamina and mana recovery rates while reducing light and electric damage. Yun-Che notes with satisfaction that this treasure will boost his base stats and reduce damage taken. Faster stamina recovery will increase his HP limit. Faster mana regeneration will allow him to create more trick blades, and added resistance will help him endure dangerous battles. What excites him most is the 20% light and electric damage reduction, something difficult to achieve even with high-quality gear. On top of that, the crystal core doesn't even occupy an equipment slot. Still, Yun-Che reflects on the strangest part. Crystal ores attract wandering types, so a hidden treasure should naturally summon something far stronger than ordinary wandering types. Deciding to make use of it, he presses the Use button. The system prompts him again, explaining that using or taking the item will consume 10 minutes of mirror walk time. Back in the real world, the students, including Yun-Sha and Yun-Yun, stand frozen in fear as the cave begins to tremble violently. From the depths, an enormous monster emerges. One student whispers in shock, asking if this is the wandering type lord, while another shouts in terror that it's the hidden boss.